Good evening and welcome to Charlotte Wildlife Stewards, our program for the month of February. So we're happy everybody's here, all you folks that came out on this drizzly night. And we're also happy to have all you folks that are online.
40 people.
How about 40 people?
40.
40 people online. Go ahead and put in the chat box where you're from. It would be fun to know how far we're reaching tonight. So I also want to thank Sardis Baptist Church for sharing their space with us. They're so generous with sharing their space every month for our programs as well as our leadership meetings. And we've also had some fun events here. So and they let us use their equipment. So we're very thankful for that. So we are a chapter of the North Carolina Wildlife Federation, one of about 17 or 18, I think right now. So we have chapters all across the state, and we're the boots on the ground folks for National Wildlife Federation. I mean, but they have people on staff that also they're participating in the events too. So we get a lot of great support from them. If you don't already get our Charlotte Wildlife Stewards email, or our email that comes out once a month, our newsletter, you may have already signed up. If you didn't get a chance, you can do that after the program. We are, of course, on social media, and we have a website, and we do keep the events page updated. So you can go there to see what we've got going on. So our mission is to create, protect, and preserve wildlife habitat through education, engagement, and enjoyment. And of course, we do these speaker series, which is fun. Last month, we did nature trivia, which was also, some people probably learned some new stuff. A lot of people knew a lot of stuff. It was a whole lot of fun. And we're going to do another one probably in September. So keep that on your radar. And we like to engage people, and that's with our volunteer events. And the enjoyment part is they're just fun. They're fun. And we do other things that way. So one of the things to help with wildlife habitat is these are things that people can do. All of us can do in our own yard is to support wildlife. And they need everything we need: food, water, places to raise their families, places to find shelter. The other thing that we advocate is using sustainable practices in your yard, eliminating as much as you can any pesticide use, using native plants in your landscaping. I know in Charlotte, there's already a lot of non-native out there, but anything that you're going to replace or add, research and look into the non-native. The Native Plant Society is a great resource. National Wildlife Federation also has a plant finder app or a plant finder page. You just put in your zip code, and that helps with that. And you can register or certify your yard with the National Wildlife Federation. We have some little cards back there that has that information on it that you could pick up on the table. The other thing is the Butterfly Highway, and that's a program of the North Carolina Wildlife Federation. There are over 3,000 pollinator pit stops across the state. And this is a great way to support pollinators, which we know have been in serious decline. I just saw a report for the Western monarchs. They're just slightly over 9,000. I mean, that just, there was a huge population to the west that they overwinter in California. So anyway, they really need a lot of help. But what the Butterfly Highway is putting pollinator habitat in your property. It can be a pot, it can be pots on your patio or balcony, or, as much space as you want it to be. So always look for native plants. Try to get the ones that are closest to the straight species, because there are lots of cultivars, but kind of learn about that sort of thing. And you can register for free. You can register it with North Carolina Wildlife Federation, and you can purchase a sign to put in your yard. Be a great conversation starter for your neighbors. So what do we do for wildlife conservation? Well, here's some pictures of some of the things that have happened in the past year. We had a workshop to make nuthatch boxes. We've done bluebirds in the past, which have, fortunately, their populations have had a resurgence and they're pretty steady. But the brown-headed nuthatch is a species of concern in North Carolina. So our workshop was to build so families could come and build their houses. We also, this one is planting a pollinator garden. Invasives removals, trying to get rid of the ligustrum and the wisteria.
Whitey's
Huh?
not here tonight.
Do what?
Whitey's not here tonight.
Yeah, they're not here. So, Whitey and Louise they're almost at everything. This is tree planting. We participate with Creek Relief, which is with Charlotte Stormwater and NCWF and the Charlotte Public Tree Fund. So that was, we put in whatever, not we, but we put in over what, 300 trees and shrubs in November. And then up there on the left is Steam on the Wing, which is at Carolina Raptor Center. So we participate, we partner with them. And then the bottom is showing the results of our creek cleanup from last year at Chantilly. So those are the boots on the ground. So what can you do to volunteer? We do have a Briar Creek cleanup at Chantilly on March 23rd. This is part of the Stormwater's Creek Week. So if you can't make that one, look on Stormwater's website because they will have events all week. And there's this is at the beginning of the week. At the end of the week, they've got like a really big sweep. So so check that out. But it's a lot of fun. You can put waders on or just wear your boots and get in the creek. Or if you're not that adventurous, there's plenty of cleanup along the creek. And everything will be supplied, all your pickers and everything. So we have some things coming up. We're gonna have a workshop for making nesting balls for birds. And so what this is, it's a mesh bag with alpaca fiber in it. And then you can take it and hang it in your yard and the birds will come and pull those fibers out and use it in their nest. So that's going to be at Wild Birds Unlimited on March 8th. And then I already mentioned Steam on the Wing, that's April 5th. And we're going to do the City Nature Challenge, and you're going to learn more about iNaturalist because that's the app that you use for this. So the City Nature Challenge kind of countrywide is April 23rd through the 28th.
April 25th.
25th through the 28th. We're going to do a bio blitz. The location, we don't have a location yet, do we?
TBD.
Pardon?
To be determined.
We're going to go out. Location is to be determined, but we'll have a group. We'll go out and do this bio blitz, and we'll upload our stuff into iNaturalist, and it's a competition between cities. It started with San Francisco and who else?
LA.
Huh?
LA.
And San Francisco and LA, but it's kind of, to see who had the most biological diversity, but it's moved out across the country, and Charlotte's participated before. So, so anyway, keep an eye on our social media and our website for more information about those. So we've got after today, we've got 3 more programs for this kind of programming year. Next month on March 11th, it's going to be on the red wolves, which, are critically endangered. And Caterina Ramos is the NCWF educator at the Red Wolf Center. And she's making a tour de cat, as she calls it. She's going to be traveling around the state doing talks. So we're combining with the Hawk chapter in Matthews because they're just right next door. So instead of being here, it's going to be at the Matthews Community Center. So that's pretty important to remember. But it's going to be terrific. And then in April, our own Katie Carpenter, who's on our team, she also has a turtle rescue called Unsheltered, and she is going to give our talk on turtles, and she may even bring 1 or 2. And then we have in May, the talk will be on backyard conservation, and it's what we're all about too, what we can do as individuals. And then that brings us to our program tonight. So happy to welcome Rob Van Epps, who is you were one of the original users of iNaturalist. Early users,
but probably an early adapter. Yeah,
an early adapter. Okay, so we're going to switch out our computers.
Here, I'll say a few words first. So welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in online and for being here in person. My name is Alden Picard, and I'm a staff with North Carolina Wildlife Federation. I support our local wildlife chapters like the Charlotte Wildlife Stewards. And I worked with one of the leaders from Charlotte Wildlife Stewards to invite Rob Van Epps to this presentation. And I had actually never met Rob, but I had seen his name everywhere. If you're ever on the butterflies and moths of North Carolina, you have several observations published on that website. So Rob is an amateur naturalist. He's a wildlife photographer. He lives in Davidson, which is North Mecklenburg County. And he studied math and zoology at Duke University. But he just loves nature and wildlife. He leads bird walks, local bird walks, butterfly walks, salamander walks routinely in the area. And he's been doing this since he was 8 years old. So he's an avid worldwide bird watcher. I'm a little bit jealous. He's seen over 2,500 species, which is pretty incredible. But his interests, go to the invertebrates as well, butterflies, dragonflies, and then also reptiles, amphibians, pretty much flora and fauna, right? All flora and fauna. So he's been documenting sightings and seeing what other people have been observing. And in 2013, he discovered this fledgling application called iNaturalist, which you're seeing right now on the screen. And he was hooked and he joined as an early adopter. He's been obsessed, those are his words, obsessed with iNaturalist ever since. Many of you are probably familiar with it. But Rob, how many observations do you have on iNaturalist?
Coming up on 12,000.
Coming up on 12,000 observations. So he knows the ins and outs of iNaturalist and how the application works. So that's why we're here tonight. And I'll go ahead and welcome Rob Van Epps. And we're going to do a quick transition. And to those folks online, go ahead and just put your questions in the chat as they come. And we can address them kind of throughout the presentation. So we'll take questions throughout the presentation and give us a moment while we transition online. Thank you. Okay.
If you want to just.
Oh, Don, let me stop sharing on Don's screen. Or I can actually wait a second on Don's screen. So you get it.
I want to remind you all, we do have a raffle, right? And it's a really cool book. There's a company in Raleigh called Davidson. They actually won the government conservation award for businesses. And a few years ago, anyway, and so the guy that owns that company got this book.
Okay, I did it. I'm muted now, but is there a way to not have the? Yeah, I think we're good now.
Okay.
Okay. As Alden was saying, yes, I was kind of an early adapter with iNaturalist, and it's something I'm really, really into, probably far too much if you ask my family. But it's really exciting to be able to come and share that passion with you guys here. I'm also leading a salamander walk this weekend up at West Branch Nature Preserve in the Davidson area. So hopefully some of you guys will be at that. And right now the weather is looking a little on the dicey side, about 50 degrees and some wet, which the salamanders don't mind at all. But I know some of us aren't quite as thrilled about that type of weather. It is a great spot for salamanders. We should be able to see some species out there. So hopefully it'll hold out and we can all have some success out there. So who here is familiar with iNaturalist? Okay, good. Probably more than half the folks here, hopefully same amount online. And how many people have the iNaturalist or the Seek applications on their phone? Okay, about the same. How many of you have an account set up, an iNaturalist account, and actually use that app? Fewer, but still a fair amount of people. So that's good. That's really good. So what I would ask you right now is I'm going to chat a bit about myself, and that's not all that important. So you can take that time. And if you don't have the app on your phone, go ahead and download it now, because we're going to be walking through that a little bit. So go ahead and if you want, go ahead and download iNaturalist right now. One more question. Of all the people who raised their hands and said they have iNaturalist on their phone, how many of you downloaded it specifically for this presentation? Yeah. Figured I'd get a few hands for that as well. Okay, good. So,
useful, or if you use iNaturalist, you can.
Okay, the question, and that's great. So please just shout out questions if you have them. I will answer them. Some of these we'll be talking about in the presentation, but if I can go ahead and answer them up front, then we will just bypass that as we go through the presentation. The question was, what's the difference really between iNaturalist and Seek? Seek is an iNaturalist company. If you see up there on the front page there, it says Seek by iNaturalist. So it's the same thing. It uses the same artificial intelligence to identify the species that you have. Seek does not post your observations online. So if you are concerned about privacy issues, for example, you can use Seek. It'll identify the things for you. It'll keep track of your records only on your device. It won't upload them to the cloud. So it's kind of a privacy thing, but they're really very, very similar. All right. So a bit about me. Some of this you've heard already because the wonderful introduction that I had. First of all, let me just say I have no affiliation with iNaturalist whatsoever. I am just an obsessed user and here to talk about it because I love it. As was mentioned, I'm a math and zoology major from the darker blue school a little bit to our east here. My older daughter did go to the lighter blue school, so I have a great affinity for that school as well. I've really sort of been interested in nature from the beginning. I was planning on going into it was into a PhD program in ecology, and then sort of changed tracks and decided to become an actuary. So very, very different kind of divergent tracks, and opted for one over the other. Very, very conservation minded, like the folks here and like what you guys do. I served on the board of directors for the Davidson Lands Conservancy for many, many years, and was the president of the DLC for a couple of years as well. So I'm very familiar with kind of what you do and conservation, and it's very near and dear to my heart as well. Although I did go down the actuarial route for a career, I still maintain a great love for nature, and I still stay very involved with not only organizations like yourself and the DLC, but I lead walks for a lot of local nature groups. They mentioned bird walks, butterflies, dragonflies, salamanders. I kind of have gotten into it all. I started birding at a very young age. I still do a lot of birding when I travel overseas. I tend to kind of go back to my roots and be more of a birder, but now that iNaturalist is out there, it's hard to just focus on one thing. So my interest has evolved into everything, butterflies, dragonflies, herps, which are reptiles and amphibians, leaf hoppers, microscopic organisms. I've been into Collembola springtails lately. Um, I just am fascinated by basically everything that lives, and I do even swing over a little bit onto the plant side now and then. So I've learned plants as well, although I really have been more kind of a critter guy for most of my life. I've always enjoyed photography. I'll mention that I'm a photographer. I would make that a small P photographer, not a capital P. Nature watching and nature photography are very different beasts. And if you want to get a really good picture, you spend a lot of time on one thing. I have a lot of respect for great photographers. Every now and then I will settle down and try to get really good pictures. But I'm more of a photographer from a documentation perspective. So I always say I like sort of three ranges of photographs, in my opinion. There's the documentation photograph that just is good enough that you can tell what it is. There's the good picture that you're proud to show other people. And then there's the, the publishable picture. And if you can get a really good publishable picture. So I have probably, I don't know, 400,000 photos of things out there. And I might have, 100 that I would consider publishable. So as you get into it and you start learning about more things and everything else, I'm also kind of a lister from a birding perspective. And I want to keep track of it. How do you keep track of all this stuff? How can you kind of keep up with it? Well, I started birding when I was 7. That was a few years ago at this point. I'll be turning 60 this year. So way back in the days when I started birding, what did you do? How did you keep track of the birds you saw? Well, all you had was field guides back then, right? No internet, no computers. So it was field guides. And I spent hours just poring over the field guides and learning what birds were where and how they were. And you would keep notes in your field guides, right? Probably if any of you guys were birders back then, you did the same thing. You keep your notes in your bird guides. And if you were lucky, you'd meet other people who were birders and you'd talk to them and you would go out on your walks and you would write your list down in notebooks. I have all these spiral notebooks in my bins with notes of my bird walks back then. And then a few years later, along came personal computers on it. Spreadsheets opened up a new world. Now you could keep track of things on spreadsheets. And a little bit later, there was birding software. I don't know if any of you remember Avisis or Thayer's birding software, but those were software programs you could load onto your computer and you could keep your records for your birds there. All of this stuff at that time, you could get field guides for a lot of different things, but the software really kind of started with birds. Birding really took off. In 2002, eBird came along, and I'm going to guess everybody here is familiar with eBird. Yes, no? eBird is very similar to iNaturalist. It's an app on your phone, it's a website, and it's a way to keep track of the birds that you see. So eBird's wonderful. All of a sudden, you didn't have to take notes anymore. You could just do it on your app on your phone, and you walk out and you go to Reedy Creek Park and you say, I'm going to go bird watching for the day. You turn on eBird and you just go for your walk and take your binoculars and see what you see. And as you go, you just list off what you see. Oh, 2 chickadees, 5 robins, etc. By the time you're done and you push stop, it has recorded your time for you. You can go back and actually see the trail that you walk because it tracks your path. And when you're done, you hit enter and it uploads it to your eBird account. And then you can go in and see how many birds you've seen in Reedy Creek Park on that walk, or in your life, or Mecklenburg County, or the world. Or you can see how many times you've seen a northern cardinal, or how many times you've seen a crimson-breasted grosbeak if you want. So anything you want. So yes, sir.
So eBird was released before iNaturalist.
eBird was released well before iNaturalist, 2002. So eBird I thought was like kind of a life-changing event, and little did I know. So several years down the road, along came iNaturalist, and that truly changed my life. So what is iNaturalist? Well, according to iNaturalist, this is straight from their website, iNaturalist is an online social network of people sharing biodiversity information to help each other learn about nature. Okay, that's what they say. It began in 2008, actually as a master's project from 3 UC Berkeley students. A few years after that, they formally organized it into iNaturalist LLC. Became an initiative of California Academy of Sciences a couple years after that. I started using it in 2013, so I was pretty early user. I was just tooling around one day saying, how can I document my butterfly sightings? How can I document my frogs and salamanders that I'm seeing? And there were a few fledgling things out there, and I just settled on iNaturalist. Looking at it, had the best user interface. It seemed like it was pretty interesting, and all I can say is from then to now, it is light years ahead of where it was, and it is absolutely phenomenal. 2023, they actually went out and became their own nonprofit. 2017, they joined with National Geographic. 2023, they became their own independent nonprofit organization, 501c3. I was concerned at the time. I was like, oh no, and is this now, because it's going to be its own company, going to change and not be good? It's been great. It's been just as good as ever. There's been no downside to it. It's been fantastic. It is currently the largest citizen science project in the world. So we'll talk some numbers here in a minute, but let me just say it's massive. Okay, so I read to you the definition of what it was back there, but what does that mean? So my definition is it is a photo and audio. You can upload sounds as well as photos. Photo-based critter documentation, identification, and information/education platform. And critter is a very scientific word. I like using that word. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, it's photo-based. And for eBird, you take a walk and you just tell it what you saw. You don't have to prove it at all. But for iNaturalist, you have to actually provide a photo or a sound. So they have proof that you are seeing what you saw, okay? There's pluses and minuses to that, obviously. And we'll get into that in a minute. But eBird likes to track, for instance, when you take a walk, you're supposed to keep track of the number of birds you see. So you'll put, oh, I saw 10 chickadees and I saw 5 tufted titmice and I saw 3 brown-headed nuthatches that were using these great houses that were put together by you guys. And but here it's, you know, you don't have to tell the numbers of things you saw. So there's definitely a bias on iNaturalist as to what's being seen out there, because in order to be posted, you have to be photographable, and many people use their phones. So we'll get on to kind of how that biases some of the things that are seen out there. But let's go through what I said here. So for documentation, this is, you know, my bread and butter here. It lets you keep track of everything you can take a picture of. So you go on and you post it, and then it's on your site for iNaturalist, and you can go and look and see everything you've seen. It's a way for you to track what you're seeing. Identification, it helps you identify what you're seeing. It has a phenomenal AI interface. So when you go and take a picture of something and you don't know what it is, you just say, hey, what is this? And it gets it right more often than you would believe. Even birds that are very closely related and similar looking, it does a fantastic job. Butterflies does a really good job. Once you start getting to sort of the more esoteric critters out there, it doesn't do quite as well because it hasn't built up the database for it yet. So as it's going, it's learning and it's becoming better and better. But in addition to that, all the other people are the ones that really help with the identification. So you can go post a bird and you can say, I don't know what it is, but I know it's a bird. So you can just post it as a bird. And a bird, especially because people love birds, birds are still probably the biggest thing out there. If you post a bird, someone within 1 minute will come on and tell you what that bird is. So it will be verified by someone else about within a minute. You do a butterfly, it might take a day. Got a question? That's a good question. I don't post audio all that much. The question was, can it identify songs? I do have posted audio a few times for things that I've heard. Owls, nightjars, whippoorwills, chuckles, widows. But I know what they are, and so I ID them when I put it on there. I haven't used that to see if it can ID the sounds.
There's a path Merlin does ID for 5 sounds. So what I've done is I've recorded sounds in Merlin that I'm just and cross post to that.
Yeah, had a comment from the audience about Merlin. So Merlin is a birding app. So it is extremely good at knowing what bird sounds are. A lot of people, when they go and do a bird hike and they've got eBird, so they're tracking the birds, they also have Merlin on, so it's listening for the birds and it'll tell you what it's hearing. And yes, well, it can now, yeah. So they're both from Cornell, right? They're both Cornell-based apps. You do have to be a little careful. Merlin's not perfect. eBird reviewers will kindly ask that you do not post birds that you are hearing only on Merlin without knowing what they are and actually identifying the birds, because it causes them a great deal of grief when people post birds from Merlin that aren't really there. So, see,
What's the most interesting bird you like hearing at the moment?
that's right. So, okay, so identification. iNaturalist does a great job of helping you. The whole community out there does an even better job of doing it. And then on the information education side, it's really a two-way street, right? It's telling you. So for any species, any organism you find that you click on and want to learn about, iNaturalist will tell you something about that. It'll help you identify it. You can click on once it says, hey, we think this is a ringneck snake. You can click on that and it'll tell you a little bit about the creature. And it will also give you links to go on and really delve into the details about that if you want. But in addition to that, you're providing information for iNaturalist. So by doing this, you are helping them by saying what's out there. You're giving the information there, other people finding it. And that information is what we said, when I said earlier, is the biggest citizen science group of information and data out there in the world right now. So it is used by scientists, by environmentalists, by naturalists, by grad students all over the place to sort of track what's going on in the world of nature. If you go onto iNaturalist and you post an observation, and other people come on and identify it, you will see that it turns into what they call research grade. And we'll look at that a little bit on the phone in a second. And so research grade simply means that observation has been confirmed by at least two people. And you can be one of them when you put what you think it is, and then someone else comes and says, yeah, that's it too. So when I started using iNaturalist to begin with, I would post, I was posting some of my better pictures of herps, because that's what I wanted to document to begin with. So I'd post a picture when I very first started using iNaturalist, and it came on, and I looked and I said, oh, my picture's research grade. I went to my wife. I'm like, that's right. My photo is research grade. Well, all that means is that it's identifiable. All that means is two people agree with you. It has nothing to do with the quality of photos. As a matter of fact, this is really not a site for showing off your photos. That would be Flickr or other sites. But there are phenomenal photos out there. So a little bit of both. So in addition to all that, it's fun. It's casual to competitive. I say this about birding, and it applies to iNaturalist as well. I love the fact that for birding, you can be a backyard birder and have a bird feeder, and that can be the extent of what you do, but you love watching your birds come into your bird feeder. Or you can be competitive and you want to see as many birds as you can, and you are competing with your friends and you want to have the most species in Mecklenburg County or North Carolina or the world. So it can be anything to anyone, although I do warn you, it can be very addictive. And for the obsessed, and I would fall into this category, it is a worldwide, nonstop, photo-based treasure hunt. So you are looking for everything. And I will go on to iNaturalist one day and I'll say, oh, who's seeing what here? And I'll look and say, well, what's a springtail? What's a colembla? Well, before I know it, I'm going out sifting through leaf litter. I'm bringing it back and looking in a microscope, and I'm setting up my macro camera, and I'm taking pictures of these itty bitty little hexapods. Columbulas are like insects, but they're not insects, that live in the leaf litter all around us. And I'm trying to see as many of these species as I can. So it's crazy. All right. So, all right, now hopefully you're in. You're like, this all sounds really cool. How do I use it? Well, the short answer is you can use your phone or you can use your computer. And the phone has limited capabilities, and we'll talk about that in just a second here. The computer is much more robust in what it can do and what it can tell you. And also, what is an iNaturalist user? Okay, so you'll hear about users of all these things. Well, really, there's three types of users for iNaturalist. There's people that observe, they post observations. There's people that identify, they go in and identify. A lot of those people, if you go into their profile and look at them, they might have a dozen observations and they'll have 10,000 identifications. So that's what they do, is they go on and identify the photos of the observations that other people are putting out there. I'm on the other side of it. I do post a lot of observations. That's what I like doing. I identify stuff now and then, but not a whole lot. But then there's also people that are kind of in stealth mode, if you will. And these are people that use these apps to help them identify species, identify things that they're seeing, or go on and learn what's in an area, but they don't post and they don't identify, but they still use the app frequently. In fact, well, just to set off with, right now, as of now, there's over 225 million observations worldwide, and these things, it's growing by leaps and bounds. The number of observations, in fact, is 1.6 million observations per week in the summer and about 600,000 in the winter. The United States, which used to have by far the biggest amount of observations, is now less than half. We have about 100,000 observations. So the rest of the world is really taking this on as well. It's just blowing up. There's over 500,000 species documented, 8.4 million users worldwide, and that includes Seek as well as iNaturalist. And but of those 8.4 million, 3.5 million are observers. They post observations. Only about 400,000 have identified species that are on there, and the rest of those stealth users. So there's actually a whole lot of people that use it but don't really post observations and don't really identify it, but they just enjoy the app and it helps them identify things, or it helps them learn. They go on and see what's there and learn about species through the app. All right, so we're going to start with the phone. All right, so the phone lets you observe, explore, and engage. And if you go all the way back to the beginning of what I was saying, you know, iNaturalist itself says it's a social media platform, right? Well, it is social media, but it's not really social media in the way that a lot of social media is social, right? So you can go on and you can comment, and I've gotten to know a lot of people and vice versa over the years, and you'll say, oh, nice photo, or where'd you find this, or how'd you take that picture, or whatever. But the social part of it is more limited. It's really more these identifications and observations, and the social aspect is less, which is, you know, good or bad depending on what you think. You're never going to get on there and find nasty rhetoric. You're never going to find nasty comments. It's very positive stuff for the most part. In fact, they will kick you off if you abuse the app. So from that's a good point. Seek we've talked about, had it up there, but we've already chatted about what Seek is, so we're going to move on. So let's talk about the phone. If you open up your phone, if you've got it, go ahead and open up the app. This is probably going to be rudimentary for a lot of you guys, but for people who haven't used it before, I want to walk through a few things with your phone. So if you open it up, this just happens to be my screen. If you've set up an account there, you're going to have 5 little options on the bottom. Let me see, actually, I want to do this so I can, there we go. So the people online can see where I'm pointing to. So across the bottom of your phone app, you're going to have a number of options, and these are really the main things you can do on your phone. Up at the top right, you're going to see a little book, and there's some articles and things you can read, and then settings for your personal accounts and everything. But by and large, you're going to be using the icons that are down at the bottom of your screen here. And really for those, you're going to be using probably the Explore and the Observe the most. Me is just a list of your observations and everything that's going on with them. And yes, if you look up there, you can see my latest ones, my latest posts when I went ahead and took this screenshot of my phone were a colembala and a spider and a millipede and a, you know, crazy stuff. So, so let's go ahead and start with observing. So we're going to talk about observing first. So if you go down to the bottom there, you see all the things. Click on the little camera that says observe. And if you click on that, it should bring up multiple options on how you can post an observation. You can do a photograph. You can click the camera, which will let you take a photograph with your phone and use that now. You can click photo library, which will mean pull from a picture you've already taken and saved on your phone, or you can record a sound. So right now, click on camera. Click on camera, and we'll see if we can make this work. So, don't tell me now, my mouse is messing up here. That's so weird. Now the mouse won't come out of this mode that I'm in. That's too weird. Okay, I'll do it that way. All right, so we are going to have a a duck on the pond here. So what I want you to do, this is a photo that I took recently at Moss Creek Greenway, right?
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So pintail, this is a male pintail. Oh, oops, sorry. I shouldn't have said that. We don't know what this is. It's a cool duck that we see on the water. We're pretty sure it's a duck, but we're not sure. So if you want to use your phone, zoom in and take a picture of that if you can. All right. So now, if you've taken that and you've done observe, this is what you should see. You should see the picture that you just took right here on your app. And now it's going to ask you, what did you see? What did you see? So click on that. Just click on the what did you see? And this is where it gives you some suggestions of what it thinks it might be. So if you're like me, if it's doing it the same way, it'll pull up, it'll say, well, we're pretty sure, this is what it says, we're pretty sure that it's a duck and it's in this genus, right? So it's a mallard pintail, right?
Back to the picture.
You know what? I don't know that I can because of the way this is working right now, or not working. What the heck is going on here?
You're trying to go back one slide?
Yeah, but it's stuck on laser mode, so I can't. What did
You
hit?
can
Just
use
the back?
backspace,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll just use the arrows. That should
Yeah.
work too, right?
Yeah.
All right, there you go. You've got about 5 seconds. Take this picture.
Not a northern pintail.
Shh, we don't know what it is. It's a really cool bird, but I have no clue what it is. All right, we good? Got one more? Still seeing people using their phones, so I'm waiting. I'm giving you time. All right, time's up. So now, hopefully you got it good enough.
Yeah, you have to select use the photo once you take the.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Once you've taken that picture, you're right. I didn't do that screenshot up there. You should use photos. You're going to use that photo. And I'll tell you that if this picture, so it's showing up there, and the picture I took was full screen, and if you're a long way away and it's a little bit on your screen, it still should pull it out. It's that good. iNaturalist should be fine if it's a small spot. So, all right. So hopefully now you've got the picture of the unknown bird up here, and you click on what did you see? It should give you a suggestion. So this is how it works. This is how iNaturalist suggests what this might be. A lot of times it really knows, but it doesn't want to tell you it knows because it might not be right. So it'll say, we're pretty sure it's within this genus. And our top suggestion is a northern pintail, but it might also be a green-winged teal. So we're not sure. So pick what you want. So you go, you're like, if you're not sure, you can click on this little information icon here. It'll tell you more about the bird. And you can maybe say, oh yeah, that looks like mine. And then if you like that, go ahead and click on northern pintail. We decided we're doing northern pintail. Now you'll be back to the same screen you were at before, except that instead of asking you what you saw, you've selected northern pintail. Now do not hit share. Otherwise, all of a sudden, iNaturalist is going to think a whole bunch of people saw a pintail in a church tonight. But in some little pond. So if you were out and you did want to submit it, you would go ahead and click share. Oh, by the way, with your phone, it'll record for you the date and the time and the location. And this is my office, so that's why it's up in Davidson. But if you do it here, it should be recording here. And so if you were good to go, you would hit share, and that would load it up to your thing. Instead, please hit cancel. All right, so we're going to go back to cancel. There should be cancel up in the. You got it? All right. Questions? All right, now we're going to move on to exploring. So that's how you observe. It's that simple. You can take a picture of something, you can pull it from your photo. That simple. Once you've shared it, by the way, it's out there. It's out there for the public to see. Someone else would come on and say, yeah, I was just at the baptismal font in the church the other day and saw that pintail. You are right. They'll click on it, and and it'll be identified. And once two people have ID'd it, it'll become a research grade, and then it sort of goes into the batch of information that people use. All right, so that's the observe side using your phone. Let's look at the explore side. So we're back to our homepage sort of. Now we're going to click on explore, the little world map there, okay? And if you click on that map, it should bring up something very similar to what I'm showing here because I zoomed in to this area. So what it does, when you click explore on your phone, it brings up where you are. So the first thing it does is it brings up where you are. So this is going to show us a map with a bunch of little pins on it from the location we are, in this case, right here. So we're located right here. And all of the pins represent observations that other people have posted from this area. So just around here, there's a whole bunch of people whole bunch of observations people have posted. The different colored pins represent different taxons, right? Different types of animals or plants. So the blue, I believe, is vertebrates, and the green is plants, and the orange maybe inverts, insects, and the purple is fungus. So you can figure it all out. I may be wrong on some of those. What's that?
Some of the things.
Some are circles, so you can obscure your observation so you don't know exactly where it is. And it will show up as a circle instead of a pin, which means this isn't really the exact location, but it was within a big block. Okay, so if you, iNaturalist automatically obscures threatened species. So anything that is rare, it's going to automatically obscure so people can't zoom in and find exactly where it is. Very good for butterflies, very good for herps that people sadly will go out and collect, or orchids, wildflowers, you know, so it'll do that for you. For the rest of them, it'll put a pin on there. So when you look at the pins, okay, so first of all, this is in map mode. If you look at the top up here, if you look at the top of the of what you're looking at, there's 3 options on how to explore. We are in the map mode right now. So we're on this left one, that's the map. And the middle one is a grid. So if you click on that, it'll show you a grid like this one here. So that's showing you the same observations, but it's showing you in a grid form. And if you click on the list one on the right, it'll show you again the same observations, but in a list format. And if you notice on the list format, some of them will say research grade, some of them won't. So if you're interested in identifying things, you could go on and see what's being seen and say, oh, this one's not research grade yet. I can go help out and identify it, help it become research grade. In this case, when I did this, and I did this a couple days ago, so I'm sure your list and what you're seeing is a lot different than what I'm showing on the screen here. But in my case, I just looked through and I said, oh, polyphemus moth, that's a pretty cool thing. I'm going to just click on that. So pick any of the observations on yours and just click on it. Whatever you're interested in, go ahead and click on it. And it should bring up that observation. And it'll show you the picture. This is the picture of the polyphemus moth for the one I did, but it'll show you obviously your picture. And then it'll, you know, have the rest of this where it was seen and some things down here. If you click on the organism, so in this case, polyphemus moth, you click on that, it'll bring up the organism that it was. So you can learn a little bit about that. And if you want to learn even more, you can go to the bottom here and it'll say more info on iNaturalist.org, and click on that, it'll take you to the website and you can learn even more. All right, so this is one way you can kind of learn about it. Now click back, and we're going to go back. So now we're back at this observation again, whatever observation you're on. The middle one is a comment section, and the right one is a star. So if you want, you can fave things. You can make them a favorite, just like you can on a lot of social media. You can make that a favorite observation if you want to. But this is the comment section. So if you click on that, it'll take you to a list. So that's what the far right screenshot is here. It should kind of take you to the commentary section for that observation. So this is where, if you're an identifier, you can come on and say, so in this particular case, the person who posted it wasn't even sure exactly what it was, so they just selected it to a genus. And then another user came on and said, oh, well, this is a polyphemus moth. So they identified it down to species. And then someone else came on and said, yep, I agree, that's species. And if you wanted to do this, you could come on and click the agree button, and then you would be out there as an identifier as well. You would help identify the species. And oftentimes the original user then will kind of look and see what's going on, and they'll come in and agree with it too. And so they'll update their observation to that. So that is how you kind of see what's going on here. Now, if you go back, I'm going to ask you once again to go kind of back out to your main screen, to this main screen, and click Explore again. So you're back to the map area. Okay. Again, what it does when you hit Explore on your phone is it brings up where you are, but you have the ability to change that. So if you just use your fingers on your phone, you can pinch it down and make it, make the area bigger. You can move it anywhere in the world. You can move that map around anywhere in the world. So if you want to know what's going on in Key West, Florida, you can kind of move the map to Key West, Florida and zoom in as much as you want. Give it a second and it will fill in all the pins there and show you all the observations that are there. It takes a second to do that, but you can explore anywhere in the world. So for me, when I go traveling, I pop this up and I just hit Explore and I say, what are people seeing? And it shows you what they're seeing. Now, the difficulty here, of course, is that it's showing you in this format. It's showing you a grid or it's showing you a list. But it's so you can see everything, but it's kind of haphazard, right? Haphazard. It's throwing everything at you like spaghetti on a wall. All right, so questions about your phone? All right, then let's go ahead and hit the web. So I have to figure out how to do this. Yep. So let's go. The problem is this is okay. So can I just do screen one instead? Tell me what you're seeing now.
You can look. I think that's what I'm seeing.
Hmm?
So you click share if that's what you want to share.
Yeah, but I don't want that. See, why is it doing that?
Let's see. The screen.
This is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Can I
Okay,
share that?
try it, yeah.
Okay. Well, that seems to work. So, oh, it's not up here. Because I'm not. I don't know why it's not up there. It should be up there.
I think it's just slow. Are you done with the presentation with that one?
Yeah, it can be done.
So Zoom. Let me do it this way. I can do that is stop sharing.
All right. For those online, we're just trying to get it to share a different screen here.
Okay, try again.
Try what?
I think you might have to close out.
You want me just to undo this and redo this?
No, I think maybe just close out the presentation. The PowerPoint. I don't. So you want to share this window right here?
Yeah.
Okay, try it.
That's sharing it, but it's not getting it up there. But to your point.
Okay, well then, that's all right. I might have to duplicate the screen again.
Gosh darn it.
I know.
Okay, well, I got that down at least.
Now try
Should I stop sharing?
stop sharing and then share again, which we want
I
to
don't
share.
even know why this is still here.
Let's try again.
But it's not showing up there.
And then share. And okay.
I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Okay, we're gonna give this a whirl. Hopefully you're all seeing the screen. So we're gonna go online now. So this is iNaturalist.org. So if you're online and you don't have you don't have a user ID, you haven't set up an account with them, this is what will show up right here. So it's got a little login over on the right, and it'll show you iNaturalist. So you can still explore, you can still go up and explore, but you can't do certain things without an account. So if you hit explore, it's going to bring up the entire world to start off with. And again, just like on your phone, it'll have different ways of showing it, map, grid, and list. So I'm going to hit map real quick because I think that's kind of a cool way to show it. So this is the world and all the observations in the entire world. So we were talking earlier, if you look up top here, you'll see 226 million observations, 507,000 species, 400,000 identifiers, and 3.5 million observers. That's where those numbers came from. Okay, this is the entire world. Now, if I click species, it'll show all the species, and what it'll do differently than your phone is it will organize them based on the number of observations. So the species with the most observations will show up first. Any guesses on what the most observed species in the world is on iNaturalist?
A robin.
Robin? Who said, did you look? You cheated. You cheated. So that's right. So it's a mallard. A mallard is #1 in the world because it's cosmopolitan, right? It's worldwide. And as we were talking about a little bit earlier, in order to get a lot of observations, you have to be something that people are kind of think, wow, that's neat. So they attract people. And you're slow enough that you can have your picture taken pretty easily, right? Mallard fits the bill on that. Honeybees are #2 though, so that's kind of interesting, right? I would have thought that honeybees, but a lot of people are into pollinators these days, so a lot of people take pictures of bees and post them. Ladybug is 3rd. So you can also, if you're interested, take a click on the observers, and you can see who the top observers are in the world. So this individual here who's #1, and this is organized. I'm gonna get that off the screen, do you know?
I have a question for you, Rob. Online, I can help you with that. Yeah, I think it's Caroline wants to know when you're choosing your photo settings in iNaturalist, when you allow to photos and videos always versus sometimes, it gives you the option to always allow photos and videos or sometimes.
I am not sure what that's about. I will tell you this, iNaturalist doesn't allow videos. It only allows photos. It used to allow GIFs. You could make a little GIF and put it on there with a little video, but they've sort of done away with that. So you can't, right now, you can't even post a video. Now, I will say as a user, when you go on, you can say, with my photos that I post on, are they, do you have all your rights reserved on it so people can't use them, or do you have some rights, or is it just open to the public to use them? So you can set that for your photos. And I think the default is some rights reserved, which basically means people can use them for non-commercial means. And then if they want to use them for other means, they have to contact you.
I'm trying to get rid of this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Go ahead.
On the species that you said is most popular to
That's
me,
good enough.
if you have the option to change the sort.
No, you don't. That's a good question, but the question was, can you reverse the sort on the species to show you the least observed first rather than the most observed? And you can't, so you have to kind of do a workaround on that. That's a good question though. But here, when we're looking at the number of the observers, you can see this person has the top number of observations with 353,000 observations, and that's sorted by observations. If you're interested in species instead, you can click the species button, and you can see the top observer by species. So this user, Silver Sea Starsong, has almost 10,000 more species, more than 10,000 more species than the #2 person in the world. So this person's just insane. So sure, if you're interested in that person, click on him. You can click on him. So this is James Bailey, and we're going to talk a little bit about profiles in a second, but we can do it now. So you can put in whatever you want on your profile. He's got a pretty long, set of information there. You can see his observations, species identifications. If you wanted, you could click on the species and see all of his species. You could pare it down into birds. Just look at the birds that this person has seen. So you can do a lot of this. You can look at the people he follows. You can put your favorite taxa in there, and that's what so he's put some of his favorite animal groups and plant groups in there. So I'm gonna head on back. Oops. So that's it. That's the world, but we're not really interested in the world right now. We're more interested in North Carolina. So you start typing in a location, it'll pull up some options. Here it pulled up North Carolina quickly. So now we'll get North Carolina. We'll see what it's like around North Carolina. Well, now we're down to 22,000 species and 3.4 million observations. If you want to dig even further, we can go down to Mecklenburg County. So Mecklenburg County, where's this? Now, if you're interested in a smaller area that you don't have sort of defined by a county or a city or state, you can click on the observations. It'll show you a map of all the observations. And you can say, well, I'm really only interested in kind of around where we are. So you can check one of these, a square or a circle, or redo the search in the map. I'm zooming in here for a second using the scroll on my mouse. You can zoom in or zoom out in a certain area. But let's just say we're interested in Mecklenburg County and you live right here in the middle of the county. You can click a circle. You can pick a circle that's there. And now it'll only show you the stuff that's in that circle. So you can select your neighborhood. You can pick where you're going on vacation and pick a little area around there. You can kind of see what's being seen within that area. That's right. That's why the website gives you a lot more functionality. In fact, what else might people be interested in? Like I said, you're going on vacation. Let's say, oh, I'm going to Portugal. So let's just say I'm going to Portugal next week. I want to see what's there. And so here's all my observations for Portugal. But I don't really care about all the observations because I'm going in June. So you can click this filter up here and you can filter your observations by a lot of different things. So you can say, I don't care about the whole year. I care about June because I'm going in June. So let's click June. And I'm really mostly interested in, well, any of these things, right? Birds, amphibians, reptiles, mushrooms, whatever you're interested in, you can pick there, or you can come up here on the species side. So now I've got just June in Portugal, and I'm not going to the Azores or Madeira. I'm only going to mainland Portugal. So I'm really just interested in this part of Portugal I'm going to be in right here. So I'm going to look at that. And I'm really mostly interested in, say, what are you interested in? What are we interested in? Plants? Plants. So if you do plants, Kingdom Plants comes up, right? So you can click on plants and now you got the plants. And now you're like, oh, well, I wonder what I can see. Well, that's when you click on the species and now it's got it sorted for you, organized for you by the most observations. So you can see what I'm most likely to see in June in Portugal in this area. And now you can kind of keep your eye out for that when you're there. And so when I travel, that's exactly what I do. That is exactly what I do. Anyone else want to look up something fun?
I've got a question. I mean, doesn't some of this get skewed after a while? I mean, people are, getting tired of taking pictures of squirrels.
Absolutely.
So all of a sudden, squirrels are not the most dominant thing you see in Mecklenburg County versus it used to be.
That's a great question. The question was, doesn't the data get skewed a little bit because people get tired of taking pictures of squirrels? And that's absolutely true. And I was very much that way. When I started using iNaturalist, I was like, I want to document every species. I don't care about documenting 500 northern cardinals. I care about I'm a lister. I want to see the numbers I can. Over time, I've realized that skews the data. I should post everything. So I try to take pictures of kind of everything now. I'm still looking for the new stuff. I make trips specifically to go see new stuff. Me and a buddy were out 2 days ago at the coast looking for a salamander that's uncommon in North Carolina. And we found it. And coastal plains dwarf salamander. Okay, but you are right. So yes, the data is skewed because of that. It's skewed because of because of what's easily taken a picture taken of, as opposed to things that are more difficult. It's harder to take a picture of a warbler flitting around everywhere than it is a duck sitting on the water. It's also it's skewed because we've talked about there. And I had one other thing I was going to say about that.
I've noticed using that it's skewed based on where people live.
Oh.
Yeah, if you look at the maps, the observations are clustered in the population.
Absolutely. Where people live, it's absolutely clustered. Clustered where people live as well.
Misidentification.
Real quick before I forget this, and then I'll come back to that. The other thing I was going to say is just like eBird, as more and more people start using iNaturalist to document their observations of rare things get actually over counted. So if you look at eBird, for example, you'll see this happening with iNaturalist now, and you look at birds in Mecklenburg County. As a matter of fact, let's look at birds in Mecklenburg County. So here's Mecklenburg County. We'll do birds. So here, now this is kind of interesting. So there'll be, oops, we're in June. We don't want to be in June. So there's 301 species of birds in Mecklenburg County. And if you look through it, you'll actually notice when you get towards the bottom, you're going to see things like, well, I know this is the case for North Carolina. Hopefully it's the case for Mecklenburg County as well. Mallard and a Muscovy hybrid there. You'll find things like parakeets, and here you go, monk parakeet. So iNaturalist doesn't kind of filter out pets. You could go and post things from zoos and it'll be on there, right? So they're trying to do a better job of kind of filtering out non-wild birds, for example, non-wild animals. Question?
He was, it was in a container. And somebody wrote a note saying they were only looking for animals that are in the wild, not in captivity.
Yep. Well, they do want that. However, if you're out and you see a feral cat running through the woods, is that wild or is it not wild? Is it postable or not postable? Now, if you look on mammals, you're going to see pigs and cows and horses and people, believe it or not, because people want to get their numbers up, or people are just testing it or having fun or don't know the rules or whatever. So iNaturalist doesn't really weed that stuff out very well right now, but it'll get there. So we go to, all right, so here's Mecklenburg County birds, 300. You click on the observers. Yeah, I'm being a little stealth.
Two.
Yeah, Kevin's the guy I go hunting stuff with all the time too. So I got a ways to go to catch him.
Kevin Metcalf.
Kevin Metcalf. Yeah, you know Kevin. So I'm going to go on to filters now, and I'm going to, oh, shoot. First of all, I'm going to log in. So we've done all of this without being logged in. You can do all of this without having an account, but I'm going to go ahead and log in now real quick. Oh, so anytime you go on, they'll have like photos of the week and stuff. So this is a hawk moth, right? Eastern death's head hawk moth from Myanmar. Isn't that cool? Oh, the stuff you can find on here is fascinating. So now we're looking at, oh, I kicked us all the way out of where we were. So let's do North Carolina, and we'll do salamanders. I think it's good to look at salamanders because I think we have a walk coming up sometime soon about salamanders. So here's the observers for salamanders. Oh, Kevin, dang you. And so I'm going to click on my observations here. So I'm just going to look at my observations. I've got 49 species of salamanders in Mecklenburg County, in North Carolina. And if you look, anytime you pull up on iNaturalist and explore, it's going to show you kind of a list of the recent observations. So, all right, I'll show you some cool stuff. So here is a lesser siren that we caught out at the coast. So this is a amphibious salamander. You can see the gills. It lives in the water the entire time, never loses its gills. Pretty cool critter. Not the one we were looking for, though, believe it or not. The one we were looking for was this guy, coastal plains dwarf salamander, only found out along the coast. It's a Eurythia salamander, like our 2-line salamanders or 3-line salamanders that we have here. So we had a pretty successful trip there. So
Where was that on the coast where you observed?
that we were out at the Bladen Lakes area, Bladen Lakes State Forest, southwest of Singletary Lake State Park. Okay, so this is all the salamanders in North Carolina. I'm gonna get rid of my observations now. This is salamanders, and so we're gonna be going out to West Branch Nature Preserve, and West Branch Nature Preserve may not pop up as a defined area, so I'm gonna hopefully go in and find it. So this is West Branch Nature Preserve. That's where we're going. Let's go ahead and just see what's there. We're going to use our circle. Go on. So here you go. 6 species of salamanders we might see at West Branch Nature Preserve this weekend. All right. In order, marbled and spotted. Those are the 2 ambystoma salamanders, or the what are called mole salamanders, not to be confused with a mole salamander. There's a ambystoma that is called a mole salamander, so it gets confusing. But those are the 2. These are the 2 big boys that people like to see out there, because they're big. They're pretty big. They're pretty charismatic. What do they call it? Charismatic megafauna, right? It's some charismatic megafauna. They also have newts, white spotted slimy salamanders, southern two-line, what have you. So if we're lucky and people show up and don't get soaked, we have a good chance of seeing 2, 3, maybe even 4 species. We put in our time and effort. Yes.
I've seen salamander that looks like the one with the yellow spots, but with white spots. Do you know what that would be?
Well, the marbled salamander is highly variable in the coloration that's on it, right? So the white/silver linings on it are banded or striped or whatever, but it could be spotted maybe. Around here, yeah. So, right, yeah. They're not usually going to have spots. A spotted salamander spots will be yellow. If you got it on a really cold day, it might not look so yellow. They do kind of pale out. They're really cold, so could be what it was. All right, so let's see. I was told I had to show some pictures when I was a photographer, and since we're doing salamanders, I'm going to show you some of my salamanders from West Branch Nature Preserve. So there's a marbled salamander, nice guy we might see.
State salamander of North Carolina, right there.
State salamander, North Carolina, you got it. So no, we don't. All right, so we're gonna diverge, and we're gonna talk about salamanders for 30 seconds before we come back to iNaturalist, because everybody loves salamanders, right? So the way we find most of these salamanders is by flipping logs. A lot of them just kind of hang out under logs. If you go out at night, you might see them walking around on the forest floor, because they're mostly nocturnal. They're mostly fossorial. They live underground most of the year, a lot of the year, but then they will come up under logs and under rocks and cover. But in this time of the year, they're also moving, or they're on the move to get to their wetlands to breed. So especially spotted salamanders is a great time of year to see them, because they're moving. So they're kind of coming from the upland forest where they live, and they're kind of moving down towards the wetland to breed. So they're much easier to find this time of year. They're easier to find after a rain, right? They're salamander. They like it when it's wet. So, you know, when we go out there on Saturday, they'll probably be falling off the trees. So, so yes, we tend to find them by flipping things. Are they insectivores? Yes. Yes, they are. Well, they're carnivores. We'll say they're carnivores because they eat a lot of invertebrates, but not necessarily insects. They'll eat centipedes and millipedes and worms. So not just insects. So yeah, the 2 that people love are that and spotted salamander. So those pictures, by the way, are from West Branch Nature Preserve. Is maybe my favorite spotted salamander picture. So these guys, on a good day in February, you can find dozens of them out at West Branch Nature Preserve. So
And to recap, when you first uncovered, did they kind of scramble or they just breathe?
So very good question. All right. So a salamander is not a salamander, right? So plethodons, all right, white spotted slimy salamanders, gray cheek salamanders are plethodons. They oftentimes have, hang out right by their little hidey holes And if you flip something, they're gonna go, they might take off, right? They're also called slimy salamanders for a reason. Their tails are very gluey. They secrete a lot of really sticky stuff when they're disturbed. So if you catch them, you can grab them sometimes. They won't get to their hole in time, or they'll be a little slow. You catch them, they will just glue you to death. They live up to their name. They're really slimy. The mole salamanders tend to be pretty sluggish. So if you flip them and see them there, sometimes they might have a hole and they'll kind of saunter down into it. But generally speaking, you can grab them pretty easily. Two-line salamanders, Eurycia salamanders, and Desmognathus salamanders are pretty quick. So they'll scramble out of the way pretty quick. They're also sort of different where they live. Eurycia's two-line salamanders are much more aquatic. So you'll find them in the creeks and under rocks in creeks a lot of times. You can find them nearby in cover, but they tend to be in the water a lot more. And eastern newts, of course, I say of course, I have two life forms, right? So they have an aquatic form and then they have a terrestrial form. The terrestrial form is this red eft here, but the aquatic form looks completely different. They're green with red spots on them. And so when they emerge from the water, and it was interesting because when I was growing up, they taught you, oh, the eggs are laid in the water and they grow and they have this aquatic form, and then then they develop lungs and they come out of the water and they walk around on land as a red eft as an adult. Well, it turns out that they actually go back and forth. So they'll go from one to the other. It's really, really fascinating animal. So this is the only newt that we have around here. They breed out in West Branch as well. If you're lucky, you can find them. They're a little tricky to find, but sometimes you'll see a little red eft wandering around.
So obviously, those are not all photographs of the same organism. Like
The same individual. No.
yeah,
So
put together photos of things that you knew were.
in this case, I just clicked on the species to get some information about the species. And then anytime you go to a species homepage, there'll be a number of photos down in the bottom. They'll have kind of a main photo. So, if you want to pat yourself on the back, you try to get a good enough picture that you get a main photo on there.
Okay, so observation, you have different views, but it should be typically the same individual or same. I'm thinking about flowers or plants. It might be a population in an area.
That's a great question. So the question was sort of, if you are loading an observation, should it really just be one organism that you're doing? And the answer is absolutely yes. If you take a walk and you see 5 spotted salamanders and you want to record them, you should record one, or you should record all 5, but don't put pictures of all 5 into one observation. So don't say that again. You should either post 5 separate observations with a photo of each one, or if you don't really want to do that, you just want to say, I saw it, I'm going to post one, then it should just be of one of the salamanders that you saw. You shouldn't post one observation and 5 photos within that observation. So for any observation, you don't have to just post one photo. You can post as many photos of that critter as you want. You could put 6, and a lot of times for certain things like beetles or ants or whatever, it's helpful to have a dorsal view and a side view and an underside view. So people will put a bunch of different photos on to help identify what the species is, but it should be the same thing. Yes, it should be the same thing. You should do 5 separate observations, and nobody really tends to do that because, again, they get tired of posting squirrels all the time or 5 of the same thing. They kind of get bored, but you shouldn't put all 5 pictures into one observation unless it's, a beehive, something, an ant nest where they're all together.
So the different, the dorsal and the other and all different.
So top view and a side view, yeah.
Is that counting those each as a separate observation?
No.
That's-
Multiple photos in one observation.
You can post as many photos on one observation as you want. So if you go and take 4 pictures on your phone of something, and then you go to iNaturalist and you say observe, and you say from my photo library, and you select all 4, it'll put that into one observation for you.
I just had a question online.
Yep.
This is about the journal function. Do you use the journal function in iNaturalist? If so, For what purpose?
I do not use the journal function, but there are so many other functions on here that we haven't even talked about. There's projects. There's thousands and thousands of projects out there. Any user can create a project, and a project is just that. It's something that you're interested in. It might be, hey, I'm interested in what crayfish are being seen in Rowan County. So you have the Rowan County Crayfish Project, and then anyone who posts a crayfish, it'll be on that project, and you can go and look and see that. Now, a lot of these projects, because they've gotten so sophisticated with their exploring abilities, you can filter through and find all the same information as you can in a project. All right, any other questions before I jump onto one other quick thing? Yep. Yes, you can. So you could put the main photo on first, and then you've got to go home and download your camera photos onto your computer and figure it out and crop them and play with them, and then you can go post as many as you want. So just real quickly, I know we're probably getting over time here, but let me go on here on your own, on your see if I can do this. If you have an account, you can go on to your page. So there's multiple different pages you can look at now that we are under my account. So when you don't have an account, you're sort of limited in what you see. Now I'm going on this. So if I click on myself, this is my sort of home page, and this is the one we're on here says home. They'll also call this your dashboard. And this is sort of everything that's going on in your iNaturalist world. So you've posted observations, and this is showing you what people have said about your observations. It shows you observations of people you follow. So this guy, Sipsluris, is Larry Chen, guy out at the coast in North Carolina. I follow him. This is Kevin Metcalf, my good friend. He just posted that same siren that I posted. We saw that together. It'll talk about other people's observations and what people have said about your observations on your dashboard. You can click on your profile. You can set up your profile however you want. Again, with your little definition of yourself. I put a quote on there from John Muir that says, "In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks." So I find that to be very, very true and near and dear to my heart. Favorite taxa, birds and butterflies and whatever, and you can drill down on your own information here. So you can look at your observations, you can look at your species. I clicked on species there, it will show my species if it loads. And you can actually filter this and look at what you've seen on here as well. One of the really neat things on this is that you can, if it's not loading for me, is you can select a taxon, right? So a taxon is just a group of animals. It can be up at the bird level, it can be down at the warbler level. It's high or low. It's just a group of things. We're not loading here, but I could pick birds here, and then I could click and place. I could put North Carolina and birds, and I could click. Here we go. We'll do. What did I say? Do birds. So here's all. My birds, I have 1,300 species that I've logged in. So I've seen over 2,000. I've got 1,300 that I've got photos of that I've loaded on the iNaturalist. And you can look at North Carolina. And so there's the birds I've seen in North Carolina. But what I'm really interested in is what birds in North Carolina have I not seen that other people have. So I'm going to click on unobserved species. And these are the top birds that have been recorded in North Carolina that I have not seen yet. So these are the ones I need to go after. All right. I got to get me a picture of a ruffed grouse or a red knot or a dovekey. I'm not as concerned about a chicken. So yes.
An observation. A couple of days later, maybe a couple months, a couple of years. But I get back an email from iNaturalist saying that somebody has looked at an ID. Do I need to agree with that?
You don't have to do anything. You can if you want. So, all right. I'm going to do something real quick here. All right. So upload. So you can do observations from the website just like you can do from your phone. And that's in this little upload button you see. So we're going to do a real quick observation. You can drag stuff from a folder that you've got. You can do whatever you have. So I'm going to choose a file. I have this linking to the folder that on the cloud where I keep all my photos. I have a folder there that's called temp for the year. And so I've got a few photos in there. And so I'm going to just pick a photo taken recently from a trip out on Lake Norman with a bunch of birders. We go out on Lake Norman looking for rare birds all the time. And so we're doing that. And this photo happened to not be geotagged. Most of your photos, if you have a camera that geotags it, it'll put the location in. If it doesn't, then you have to figure out the location. So you click location, and I can either zoom in. I'm kind of zooming into a spot. I can say, I know this was taken on Lake Norman, so I could zoom into Lake Norman, or I can type it in here. So I'm going to type in Lake Norman. If I can type Lake Norman, North Carolina, it zooms into Lake Norman. I go on there. I say, oh, pretty sure I was, whoa, why are you not moving? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was right here on Lake Norman. So we'll just put it right there on Lake Norman. All right. So now it shows Mecklenburg County. And now I'm going to ask it what it thinks it is. What is this? It's a large white-headed gull, right? So I don't know if this is a ring-billed gull or a herring gull, even though it's got a really big ring on its bill. So, but I'm just gonna, I'll call it a ring-billed gull. So I'm gonna call it a ring-billed gull, and I'm gonna go ahead and post that observation, all right? So I meant to do this a little bit earlier. So that observation is posted. You go to mine, you'll see that observation there. And I guarantee you, if we go back in about a minute, someone else will have agreed with that identification. So now it pulls up all my observations. Now ring-billed gull is there. If I decide to change it, I can edit that. I can view it and add photos, as we were talking about. I can edit it and say, I want to put some notes in here about it. I want to change my mind and call it something different. I want to change the privacy from open to obscured. You can do whatever you want with your observation. I can add photos. If I put a bunch of photos on here and I'm like, oops, I'd rather the first photo be not the one that I posted first, but a different one. You can reorder your photographs so that they see the first one that you want to see. I know I'm running through a whole bunch of stuff here real quickly. I apologize for that. But you can do a lot of stuff. You can do a lot of stuff with that. And then when you're done, you can resave it and you come back here. Show your observations. Just hit reset. I want to see. They're letting me down out there. Come on.
Here, I'll do it for you.
So this is all your same account. So if you take a picture on your phone, it's going to be right here. So like this, you cannot drill down and explore to the same level anywhere near as well on your phone as you can here, which is why I'm spending more time on the website, just because it's very robust. And we haven't even gotten into, like, you can create data sets and export data if you want. So I work with the North Carolina Biodiversity Project a fair amount. I think Alden or Donna, one of you mentioned that project.
With NC Parks, with the state.
Oh, you were talking about the butterfly site. So that
Yeah.
there's a biodiversity project, and they have websites for a lot of different taxons. So they got butterfly site and reptiles and amphibian. It's a wealth of information. It's really neat to go on there. But they were trying to figure out how they could get observations from iNaturalist onto that site so that they didn't have to duplicate stuff, and so that people like me didn't have to go and load it onto iNaturalist and then load it onto the North Carolina site. And anyway, we kind of worked through how you can create a data set and upload it to the North Carolina site from iNaturalist. So it's really, really powerful. And yes, there's all of these other functions on here, projects we touched on very briefly. Journal didn't even touch on, other than a question and me saying, sorry, I don't really know a whole lot about that. You can create your own lists. It's far more than really even what I've talked about. But any other questions?
See if you can refresh it now.
See if I can refresh it now. Did you do it? Yeah. So look at that. It's research grade. That is phenomenal.
It was.
That is awesome. If I go to my, oh, I don't want to go there. I was going to say I can get onto my homepage, my dashboard here. I'll go back to my dashboard that we were just talking about. And some guy named Alden 6, I don't know who that was, added an identification to that observation. There you go. Now it's research grade because two of us know what it is. So you're good to go. Say that again? Up here? Oh, yes. So
You could agree with
I-
my observation too.
I could, yeah, I mean, there's no reason for me to agree with it because I did it as such. But yes, if I had not, then I could go ahead and agree with it and we would get to. It also is flagging up here. Anytime you have a new notification, a new whatever, you'll get a little red notification on here. You can set up various emails. So if I click on that, it shows the same thing right there. You can turn on or off emails. I have it set up to receive a daily email, so I just get one email a day from iNaturalist that shows everything that's on this dashboard. So it shows me observations that people I follow have posted. It shows me what people who has identified my observations. It shows taxon changes. Oh, that's a nightmare. That happens all the time. People are constantly splitting and lumping species and doing all this, and you get notifications about anything that you have posted as an observation. You'll get information about changes to the taxons there. So, all right, I didn't get to my picture. So, I think we're fine. There's one of the little collembolas I was talking about, little springtails, probably about a half a millimeter in length. Oh, I'm an idiot. I have a microscope set up with a camera on it. I've got a photo studio with a macro lens for taking pictures. This is just taking with a macro lens. So, I mean, I'm not getting into, protozoans and things like that are microscopic. This is not quite microscopic, but it's close. So
I can share in the email.
there's a
the
cool
link to your iNaturalist. I can share with everyone.
Yeah.
Follow-up email so then they can go on and look through all your.
My username is just Rob Van Epps. So if you want to go on, just take a look at Rob Van Epps. You can see all these. This is a tiger beetle out in eastern North Carolina. I love tiger beetles. They're really cool. Cool set of carnivorous beetles that are. Yeah. So yeah, this one is always this color. It's this one called a whitish tiger beetle. It's rare. But we have several that are around here as well. You've probably seen the 6-spotted one, the green one that's got white spots on it. 6-spotted tiger beetle's the common one around here. I really got into leaf hoppers for a long time, so I love leaf hoppers. Leaf hoppers come in so many cool sizes and shapes and colors, and tree hoppers. And so there's another one, right? That's a oak tree hopper. Sorry, Alden, you told me I had to show some pictures, so I'm showing a few pictures here to close it out. Oh, there's a good one. Anyone? Eastern diamondback rattlesnake. I'm not allowed to disclose.
Government property?
Not allowed to disclose yes, I'm not allowed to disclose where I saw that. That's yeah, probably
Only 8 of them.
probably if there's a few left in North Carolina. That was in South Carolina. Shovelers, lovebirds. Also took a recent trip to Africa, so I could run through a bunch of those as well, but that's one of my favorites from our African trip. Leopard coming towards us. So I had to told me I had to show a few photos, so a few photos, happy to let's see what I am sorry for keeping everyone as long as it did.
No, thank you. Had a good response online. Thank you. This has been fabulous online. So we appreciate you coming out and sharing your wealth of knowledge with us.
I love it. Happy to do it.